Hello and welcome to the John Bell Croyden podcast with your host Alex Johnston. Pharmacy pioneers since 1798, John Bell Croyden will boost your health and well-being by bringing you fresh, regular content and interviews with fascinating guests. All right, welcome back to the John Bell Croyden podcast. Today we are joined by Karen Harvey, the founder of the Toiletries Amnesty charity. So welcome, Karen.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. So Karen and I met not too long ago, actually. We met through a mutual friend, Lucy Cleland, who is the managing editor of Country and Townhouse magazine. I was asked very kindly to be a judge for the Journey to Zero Future Icon Awards, and when reviewing the applications for the prize, I came across Toiletries Amnesty from obviously all the information you put in, Karen, and I learned so much from reading about your charity and about the work that you do, about from a sustainability perspective. But what struck me the most was the craziness that we're not doing more of this. So I reached out to Lucy, and she kindly put me in touch with you, and we formed kind of a fast friendship, haven't we?
Yeah, we definitely have. And I think actually the fact that you got in touch, that you were interested in what we're doing, and you didn't just, in the past we have had organizations come to us say, we're interested and what can you do for us? And we're like, well, we don't know because we're already doing a lot for other people. So what can, can't really add any more to the load. But when you got in touch, you were so genuinely interested and you'd done research and you had questions and you had ideas. And I think that's the bit that's been really exciting, is actually that you came to us with ideas of how you could help, things that you were interested in, things you wanted to learn about. And that's a real rare thing for us. So that whole experience has been very exciting. We did spend years trying to chase people and say, hey, come and get in touch, get involved with what we're doing. We're doing something important. And it's like tumbleweeds. and then actually I might have said this before to Lucy, but when at the end of 2023, I was becoming really disengaged with what we were doing. It was so stressful, so miserable. Everything was hard work. It just felt really, really heavy and weighted. And then the beginning of 2024, I spoke to them about some stuff at Country and Townhouse, and they kind of got on board with us. And then obviously lots of stuff happened in 2024, and then we met you, and they kind of we went down and then we're going back up again. It feels very positive now that actually the right people they've come to us, and that's a really great thing.
Well, it's what's lovely to hear, but also it's once you get under the skin of what you're doing, it is such a worthy thing to be doing. But also, if we look at this, I mean, I came to this from the sustainability angle through the awards and looking at how you're working with the products, with the brands, with making the unwanted into the desired again is it's just such an exciting thing to be looking at in terms of beauty. The beauty industry as a whole comes under a lot of scrutiny when it comes to packaging, sustainability, production methods.
Yeah,
absolutely. As every industry in the world should, really. Your green credentials now are, so important to the credibility of your brand. But we've been looking at this, well, we have, I say, as John Bell Croyden, looking at sustainability as conversations we're having with our brands about how they package their products, excess plastics being used. A box within a box within a box within a box used to denote a premium or luxury product. But actually now our consumers are looking for a considered brand who are thinking, well, my product's still luxurious, but doesn't need to be in a box in a box in a box. I mean, it's not a Russian doll, it's a skin cream.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing though, isn't it? Because what we're told about the experience of luxury is that kind of unwrapping, unboxing, open the ribbon, get to the next level, like, woo, the excitement of it. And that is a really nice thing, but it's not necessary, because actually the product should stand up for itself anyway. It shouldn't be about packaging. And there are brands, we work with the René Forte skincare. They're doing lovely things. Their products are beautiful. The packaging's lovely, but everything's very much considered, and they don't have huge amounts of waste, and what they do have that's spare comes through us. There's lots of ways of doing it, and they're really they're really well respected profile brand that they're willing to share with other people. They're willing to consider how they're putting their products out in the world. I think definitely people now are thinking much more about it. It's definitely much more of a conscious thing. And I do think people like Country and Townhouse, their magazine is so full of like lovely, lovely lifestyle things, many things that I cannot afford, but I like to look at. But there's that kind of level of actually, just because you've got wealth that you can spend on something doesn't mean that you should deplete everybody else's resources. And it's that kind of thing that actually wealth comes power, and with that power comes the choice to do something good. And
Absolutely, and
that's having an audience, that's having
responsibility.
finance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
responsibility for those who can afford to make who have more choices because of
yeah,
their available wealth. Yeah, means you should be able to make better choices. And I think we've always considered that the packaging, the carbon footprint of getting the products to market, the way the products are produced, that's always been kind of the green credentials I've looked at in terms of sustainability, and obviously the ability to recycle. But what we've never thought about, and knowing the beauty industry as we do, the glut of unwanted or half used, or with skincare especially, you may try something and it works for a bit, but it doesn't work, or it falls out of favor with you. It's been gifted to you. You've got, like myself, a cupboard full of products that you have tried, tested. I mean, I test everything that comes onto our shop floor. So, but I make sure that I then dish it out to other people to get feedback on the products, of course, but also to make sure it doesn't go to waste. When I read about the Toiletries Amnesty, what struck me was this was a route to make the unwanted desired. And this was about putting, I mean, hygiene poverty, period poverty as well, was something that came up in the information that you shared with us that I wasn't aware of. And it seems silly now because I've read a lot about it. I've spoken to a lot of women, but my household is all men. A husband and two boys. We don't have, that's not a conversation I've ever had. So I went away and learned about it, and I was genuinely shocked. It's outrageous that something so, a bodily function is
yeah,
somehow classed as a luxury. And
yeah,
it just put me down that rabbit hole of conversations I know we've had about, well, if it's a basic human need, it should be met. But also when it comes to other parts of society, people in crisis, people who are having the worst year of their life, and we know that could be around the corner for any of us.
yeah,
And part of getting yourself out of crisis or back onto your feet is often finding a new job or meeting a different person. And the confidence that we know through the research around mental health and personal grooming and well-being are so integral to one another,
yeah.
that the opportunity to give people their dignity back by giving them the opportunity to choose products that can make them look and feel better, that gives them the ability to stand up straight again, to go into a new job interview looking good, feeling good, smelling good. That
Yeah.
is something we all take for granted because we
And
don't
it's
think
such a
about it when we
small
get in the
thing.
shower in the morning.
Yeah, it's such a small thing that I think because it's so normal for most people, that probably most people that are listening to that, us talking today, will know that they can go to their bathroom and they can pick any number of products to use today. And they don't have to think, will there be any more toothpaste? How, do I have to eke it out? Do we have to share a toothbrush amongst 10 people? They won't be thinking those things. And because they're just such commonplace, it's so easy to get hold of toiletries and hygiene products from people who've got the finances to do it. But if you haven't, having something like your own toothbrush, or having, things like perfume that get gifted a lot. And a lot of people, it might smell amazing in the shop. You might choose it yourself, but once you've worn it a few times, you realize it reacts with your skin, or it doesn't produce the scent that you want on yourself. Somebody else is That's like the biggest gift to receive. Bottles of perfume are definitely a lot more expensive than they used to be as well.
Yes.
And I think that like something like that, it's something really, really special that is somebody else's thing that they feel guilty about having because it's spare. Oh, I'm not going to use that. Oh, somebody gave me it as a gift. Oh, I feel bad about getting rid of it. But actually, if you just pass it on to somebody who would treat it like the best gift they've received, because it will be the best gift they've received for a long time, everybody's winning. There's no waste. And there's that sense of like, actually, it's really nice to give something to somebody else. You think about
Yes.
Christmas, we've just had Christmas. The joy of giving gifts is probably, I think, for most people, bigger than receiving them. Seeing somebody else get something is a really nice thing. So why aren't we doing that more with, if you've got something that's spare, you can give that on to someone. There's nothing wrong with giving things that, I would give to my friends, things that I'd worn or used or had for a while if I thought that they would enjoy it more than me. So why wouldn't we give it to somebody we don't know yet and make a difference for them?
Absolutely. But I think we should circle back for our listeners and talk about the premise of the Toiletries Amnesty, because like we always do, we're into our conversation now. But
Yeah.
can you tell us from an overview of what made you set up the charity, but also what your main missions are within the organisation?
So it's unfortunate, but it was an accident when I set it up. I didn't go out into the world and think I need to solve this massive problem. I kind of accidentally fell into solving a problem. I had some spare shampoo. It was a really nice shampoo, but I couldn't use it. It irritated me. And I didn't want to waste it. And I couldn't think of anybody, who wants it. I thought, well, maybe a homeless shelter would, because, they have, some of them have showers and people go in, and like a nice shampoo, like, that wouldn't be wasted and it could be enjoyed by somebody. And I thought, if I just turn up with 2 bottles of shampoo at a homeless shelter, I'm going to look like a bad person, and I don't want to be that person. So, oh, look at me being so generous with something I don't want. So what I did was I contacted Winter Comfort in Cambridge, who work with homeless people across the city, and I asked them, would you need products? Would you be willing to take them? What kind of things are you after? Do you mind if they've been opened and part used? And they didn't mind at all. Like something like a shampoo or a shower gel, doesn't matter if somebody's used it once, because multiple people will use that product within their facility. So at the time, I had a blog called I Don't Like Peas, truth. And and I put something on there, and then lots of people just started getting in touch with me. It's just over 10 years ago, blogging was much more of a thing. So I did have an audience there. And people came in touch, and they're like, oh, I'll send you some stuff. And we gathered a load of stuff together, took it to Winter Comfort. They were really appreciative. Even as I was taking the stuff in with my friend Aoife, people were coming in and going, "Oh wow, can I take that? And can I have this?" And oh my, like people really wanted the stuff. And Winter Comfort were lovely. And it just seemed like, well, if there's that much need and it was that easy to get people to give stuff, well, maybe I can just keep collecting things for a bit and keep passing them on. And then loads of people just started getting in touch. Like people were contacting me through my blog, like not to say, hey, you write great stuff, but just like, can I send you toiletries? Can I send you stuff, like all of this stuff? And in the end, I made a sort of mini directory on the blog where it's like several locations across the UK. I just listed them there, if you've got stuff, contact these guys. And it just kind of grew from there. And then I think it was 2018, we built the first proper website, not the current website that we have, toiletries.amnesty.org, but the previous version of it with a directory so that people could actually list themselves on there as locations, and individuals or brands can just go straight on there, look for somewhere that's either local to them or somewhere that, a place that resonates with them. It might be that you live in London now, but you want to send something back to wherever,
Mm.
the town that you grew up in. And it's an easy way of people finding what sort of products people want, whether they want things that are just brand new items, because some locations only want new items. And I understand where they're coming from, but I think there's a bigger picture, and we need to understand that it's okay to share things that somebody's had a sniff of. And yes, lots of locations take part used products. And it kind of it's just kind of grown from there. And I definitely didn't set out to do, I didn't think, oh, we're going to reach this many people or we're going to do this. It was a very organic thing that just kind of happened. Um, we obviously we've just finished 2024, so we're looking at the stats from the year, and we've now got 1,000, around about 1,000 locations on our directory that we support across the world.
Amazing.
Majority of them are in the UK, many in Europe. We've got over 100 in the US, which is,
Really?
yeah, this like it's just because people start to talk and they tell the next person, and it's just grown. And like I definitely think that there is a really big need. But I also think that we're reaching a wider audience, not just, it's not just because there's more need. I think that it's just that we're getting the word of mouth is just growing, and it's like a snowball that just moving along. So 2023, we supported around 4 million people getting access to toiletries and hygiene products. 2024, it was 6 million people. And I assume that will just keep growing, not necessarily because of need, well, there is that need, otherwise people wouldn't be accessing it. But, you know, not because the need is growing, the need might fluctuate, but the actual people that we're able to reach is just expanding. You know, as you reach more people, you reach a wider audience. You talk to 10 people, they tell 10 people, and it grows and grows
Well,
like that.
the need, I think, is, that's clearly it's clearly a massive need, because if 6 million people who weren't able to, were in crisis or having, say, the worst year of their life and just needed help and support for a basic human need,
Yeah.
that's it's a terrifying statistic in many ways, because my God, if there's 6 million people out there, and you're saying it's growing year on year, then it's insane that, it's amazing what you're doing, because you're actually reaching these people and helping them. I think one thing we talked about that sticks with me, a conversation we had on the phone a few weeks ago, is when we talked about choice. And when people are in crisis, and I keep saying in crisis, but it could be anything. So
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to really kind of put it. But people who are in crisis and need support, what we talked about was, if you seek support and you go to a crisis center or to the local authority or to whoever, suddenly you're dehumanized, because you're no longer just you're not Karen or Alex, you're somebody in crisis. So you get what you're given and
Yeah.
you're grateful for it. And that's great to a point where there are places people can go to seek support. But why? Because you're having a rough time, or even the worst time,
Yeah.
should you not still have the ability to choose what you want to put on your body or wash with or
Absolutely.
smell like? And when these products are headed for landfill and they're being rescued by your organization, and they're going in front of these centers, and you're saying, look, we have huge amounts of products, choose, take what you want, take what you need. And suddenly that's one less thing that you feel guilty about, when you're
Yeah.
already in this terrible place in your life where, you might have a family, you might have children, you might be escaping abuse, and suddenly you're being told what you can and can't wash your hair with, or even the frequency which you can wash your hair, because of the availability of product. It's because we're,
Yeah.
in our homes, warm and dry, and we don't have to think about that. But actually, if you take it, it's like being in prison.
It's a really
That
weird thing, and I think and it's getting that balance right, because I understand people's perspectives. I hear so many perspectives from so many people. If you you know, you might be the person that goes out to work hard every day, and you look and you see, oh, that person's getting benefits, and then they're getting free food, and they get and you're working really hard and you haven't got much yourself. I understand the misunderstanding of thinking that the other person is being given lots of things that you can't access, because a lot of it, that isn't true. There are lots of people whose situations are just really, really tough. They might be a refugee. They might be somebody that was born in whichever country it is that's, you know, where they're accessing the toiletries. They might be somebody who's gone to a shelter because they've been abused. They're in, you know, a lot of the refugees, women's refugees we work with, we don't know their addresses. We're not allowed to know their addresses because we could put people at risk by knowing that. That's how serious, you know, the difficulties that they're experiencing, they're of that level. Homeless people who have just no other options. They have no choice at all. There's so many things that are out of other people's control that we can actually have an impact on in a positive way. And I think it's that understanding that we should allow people choice, not because they should be able to choose to have a Gucci handbag and a Lamborghini. Yes, please, if anyone's listening, I'm willing. But it, you know, that they should be able to say, I've got eczema, so I can't use that product.
mm,
Or, you know, when it comes to food, I told you about this before. I was speaking to this homeless guy when I was in London doing an exhibition, and he said, "Oh, he's gluten intolerant. People come and bring him a sandwich, and he's like, it feels awkward. He doesn't want to take it because it's a waste, but he doesn't want to be rude to them. And if he says he doesn't want it, they think he's being ungrateful. But why should he have to take a random sandwich if he doesn't want it anyway? And he
mm,
can't eat it because it will make him ill." And if you're homeless on the streets and you have, well, one, if you're, you know, if you have like a serious disease like Crohn's or something, or celiac, then you need hospital. Um,
mm.
and two, if you're just gluten intolerant, you probably really need a bathroom. You know, that's really not going to help anyone. But there's a lot of these things that I just don't think we think the stories through. And
Mm,
one of the things we've also talked about before is when we see advertising for you know, cancer charities and things, we always see these people that most visual stuff that we're shown is for us to either aspire to be that person or to have empathy with them. So they've got to look a certain way for us to connect to them. And what the reality is that every person in every situation and every background could potentially get cancer. So there was one lady that we'd given some products to the Salvation Army. It was all those hair products. She got in touch with us to tell us that she lives in poverty. She lives in a really difficult position, and she'd been going through cancer treatment. So she didn't have access to food, toiletries, an easy way of living. She didn't have much comfort in her life at all, but she'd still been through cancer treatment, and she'd luckily been given, like, she'd had all of the treatment, everything should be okay. She had no hair because she'd had chemotherapy, but she wrote to tell us that she'd got these hair products and she'd lined them up in her bathroom ready, and there was something she was looking forward to using. And I've said this thing so many times, but it still gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's such a beautiful thing. Like, it's such a small thing, like, shampoo, whatever. But to somebody who doesn't have access to it, a fancy bottle of something lovely, it's such a big deal. And we're just not thinking about who actually wants to get up in the morning and think about the miseries of the world. Nobody. Like, there's so many things that are going wrong. There's so many terrible things, but actually we really can impact some of them. We can't fix everything. If we all fix a little thing, actually, 66 million people in the UK, if we all did a little tiny thing, I guess not everyone of half of the population could do something, that's a really big
Yeah.
step. And it can be tiny things, and it really can be literally going to your bathroom, going through your bathroom cabinets, checking for things that you've got spare, things that you don't need, and thinking, okay, where can these go to somebody who would actually use them? And there's a sense of, well, doesn't everyone love to have a bit of a tidy up anyway, especially after Christmas?
Yes.
You may have got presents and things, and that's a lot of stuff that we've been talking about, like, people's wasted gifts that they feel guilty about having. Actually pass it on. And coming back to the beginning of Toiletries Amnesty, the name, which now is just a name, and maybe I could have chosen better. But at the beginning, it was really like, let's make it a toiletries amnesty. If you've got toiletries and beauty products that you feel guilty about having, then you can hand them in with no questions asked. And it was like, on television, they'd be like, there's a knife amnesty in so-and-so place. And, people could go to the police station and drop off their weapons. Well, actually, there's so many people who buy beauty products, and especially makeup and things, as a treat. There was a whole survey done about it's a kind of like a marketing thing where they realized in times of financial difficulty, actually persuading women mostly, but obviously not just women, but to buy lipsticks. Go and treat yourself to a bright red lipstick and feel empowered. There was it's like a whole marketing campaign behind that, because you can afford, if you're lucky enough, most people can go out and buy a lipstick. They might not be able to afford a new wardrobe or a dress or a new bag or shoes or something, but a lipstick was an affordable thing. So if you look, a lot of people have ended up with a large collection of lipsticks because that's that quick dopamine hit of buying something and feeling that you're empowered and you've got this beauty thing, but actually you don't really need it. You don't need them all. Maybe you do. If you do, let me know, because I want to hear about this other world that I don't know about. But I think, having those things, and then there's that guilt of having, if you put together all of, not mine, because I really have very limited things. I'm so allergic to everything. Like, I couldn't even have a huge collection of stuff. But people who put together their collections of their makeup, their beauty products, all of those things. It's a lot of stuff. And when they look at what they actually want to use, it's not much of it. But there's that guilt of, oh, that cost me 20 quid. Oh, that was 80 pounds. That was, all these things that I've spent money on that I feel bad about wasting. It's so not a waste. Let it go. Let it go to somebody who can use it and absolutely love it and feel like it's the best treat and feel better about it yourself. One out of sight is out of mind. And
Well,
that's actually part of our problem, is people don't see that level of poverty. But actually, if you've got stuff spare, just hand it over.
we think back to 2020 during the pandemic, when sort of self-care became a big part of people's day-to-day, because you could still order skincare, wellness products from the internet and have them delivered. People were obviously on Zoom a lot more, so very conscious of staring at their own faces.
Yeah.
And I've got friends who, they invested heavily in self-care products. They tried a lot because they're nothing else to do. And now they've got a glut of these products that they said, oh, I got it because, a firming body cream seemed like a good idea at the time, but I don't have the time to use it. Or, I bought this, I've got every shampoo and every fragrance because I just thought I'd give it a go. So we know that there are people out there with all these products, with things they don't need, with, there are certain gifts you get over Christmas, shower gels, the gift sets, all that kind of thing that you go, oh yeah, thanks. And then you kind of slide it under the bed.
Want the shower gel because you might use that every day and it might go quickly, but you might not want the body lotion. Or but actually for many people, mostly I think actually we choose like body lotions and skin creams, we choose quite more specifically than we would do a shower gel. But for a lot of people who don't have access to things like that, it's a really nice thing to have. A nice thing. It's a luxury. It's an extra. It's a thing that you don't need a body lotion. Like you can use margarine. No, you don't use margarine. You don't need a body lotion, but it's such a lovely thing to have, especially if it's something that's scented or beautifully packaged, and those things where it just feels like a bit of a joy. And I know that one of the young people centres that we've worked with, a lot of the young people there, they leave home not out of choice when they're 16 because their parents say, "We're 16 now, off you go." And they end up living in this young people's hostel, and they get a lot of support on like how to like cook for themselves and independent living and their little flats that they live in. But what they really like is making that feel like home. And what feels like home is having nice things on display, because that's what, if you pick up a magazine, you don't, unless it's like architectural, like empty spaces, mostly, look at World of Interiors or one of those magazines. People's houses are full of beautiful things. Home is full of lovely things that you can access. So that sense of,
belonging,
is weirdly a lot of the time surrounding ourselves with stuff. If you have the choice, minimalism is a wonderful thing. Because basically, but it's because you have the choice. There's so much going on in your world. You have so much access to stuff. You might see so much stuff that actually being at home in a clean space, an empty space, can be really cathartic and enjoyable. If you have access to nothing and your life is really difficult, being in that empty space is a clinical place. It's like that prison that you said about, it's not home, it's not comfort. And it's really easy to change that. And even things like, we talk about the products themselves, but even, looking at hotels and spas and places where, things like towels, like spas, definitely, they have bathrobes, they have slippers, they have towels that come to the end of where they feel that they should be used by their customers. Actually, a few spas, they should come to the end sooner. I don't want to wear a rag, but the thing is, like, there are things where they just have like a couple of pulls on a dressing gown or something, a robe, and then that's no use to them anymore. But actually, it's really useful to somebody else who doesn't have that access to things. Somebody who's living somewhere where it's perhaps colder and they need that when they get out of, if they're lucky enough to have a hot shower, to be able to put that on and feel a bit of luxury. But there's all so many things that are just like, what we think is like, oh, something's a little bit faded, or it is still totally wonderful to the next person. And you see that with vintage fashion, like if you look at, like if you want to go and buy vintage clothes at like 50 years old, that's a wonderful thing if you have the finances and the access to the great stuff. And it's that there's kind of like parallels of the different worlds of, if you are in a lucky position to be doing okay for yourself, then being able to access secondhand clothes, pre-loved, it's very fashionable.
Well, yeah, it was secondhand in our day, and now it's vintage, and everything's expensive. So it's the change of perception, isn't it? If you look at secondhand or discarded clothing as vintage pieces, then in your mind you're going, oh, that's a worthy investment. I'm wearing 1960s Chanel or 1984 Next in my case. But it's but then if we start looking at our unwanted toiletries as an opportunity to bring a small amount of joy into somebody's very challenging time, then that it stops being, oh, I'll just chuck it. It starts being, oh, here's something good I can do with very little input, really. It's just a case of packaging it up and sending it off.
Or dropping it off in person, and it depends on how engaged people really want to get, because there are when you go on our directory, each listing will tell you, do they want it sent to them? What days are they open? Do they need you to be in touch? Do you just, pop in, drop it off? There's all sorts of, different rules for different locations. And it's good because they're setting out their rules on what they want. So if they say you can drop it in on a Monday, they mean you can drop it in on Monday. And if you want to go, you've got a reason to go. And I think a lot of the time, I'm really lucky that I'd never, until I went to Winter Comfort, I'd never had a reason to go to a homeless hostel, to a shelter, to a site like that. And so it would be really kind of awkward just to walk in and just say, hey, I want to know what happens here. But I had purpose to go there. And I talked to people and I met people. They're just people like me, but in different situations in life. And I think that's the thing where some of the locations on our listing, they're really, if you want to drop something off, drop in and say hello. You might find something else you can connect with them on. If you want to, you don't have to. You can literally put it in a box and post it off. And there's that kind of level of how involved you want to get, especially if it's in your local community. You might want to find out what else they need because, I end up being roped into lots of things like toiletries. Yeah, I'm like, focus, channel the focus. But actually what happens is I'm doing something at the moment with school uniforms. So I don't even know if I want to say it out loud in case people like school uniforms. So from one area where it's a very affluent area, they have a lot of spare school uniforms, a lot of stuff that's left over that's spare. They try to share it because obviously children grow quickly, but there's not enough people who want to have it because they have access to more stuff than other. And so I'm working with, at the moment, I'm doing some stuff like advising Lincoln City Council. And so we're looking at how we can take school uniforms from one area where there's more wealth into areas where there's less wealth and just share. And it's not, oh, look, the rich people are giving the poor people something, even though it could very much be labeled like that. But the reality of it is a lot of this stuff is it's made quickly, it's made out of like materials that don't degrade. Where's it going to go? It's a waste to somebody. It's really useful to somebody else. Children grow quickly. Let them wear those clothes. Let them share it. And it gives people the opportunity to do something. If you don't have access to money, you don't have access to being able to be environmentally friendly. You don't have the choice, like you say, the choice. So why wouldn't you give those people like the opportunity to choose that, yeah, I'd like to get some secondhand clothes for my kids because they'll grow quickly. It means that I have money for something else instead of worrying about clothing them for school. And I get to choose and I'm doing something that's good for the environment. And ultimately that's all of this comes down to. It's doing something for your community and doing something for the planet. Like it's really simple. Like just what have we got that we don't need that we can share somebody. It's really difficult to not have that idea. I don't want anyone to feel that they're getting a hand-me-down because it's not. It's just a passing it on. It's a sharing thing. I care enough about other people that people that I don't know, I don't want them to be miserable. What a horrible life that would be. So there's people I don't know and people around me, I want them to be living happy, comfortable lives. So if I can help them access something that makes their lives a bit easier, the knock-on effect is great. They feel a bit better. They're a little bit less worried about what they're going to spend their money on. There's a little bit less stress and weight on them. They might be a little bit happier, smile at somebody in the street. They pass that message on. It's just like really simple stuff.
And it's the level of confidence that these small interactions give to people. I know that having kids, just sorting out their school uniform and making sure trying to keep your kids smart is nigh on impossible anyway. They look good for a day and then everything's wrecked. But I know from there was a conversation at my kids' school where buying the embroidered badges on the jumpers is not a good thing because you can only share them with people who are at that school. I live quite rurally, so actually that works out within our community, but I can imagine for like talking about Lincoln City, if you're buying school jumpers that are embroidered, then you're limiting but then the school gets money from those, I believe. So there's a kind of a circular conversation to be had. But what I was trying, my point was is that taking the stress from a parent who is struggling for whatever reason, taking the stress off them to get some school uniform for their kids so that they can go to school. There are reports, things I've read about truancy, a lot of it being related to the kids not feeling clean or being made fun of by their peers because their school uniform is dirty, it's incomplete, they are dirty, so they don't go to school, and that is obviously has a knock-on effect to their future. And that's
Yeah.
such a silly little thing, because a clean jumper is the difference between them going to school or not going to school.
Yeah,
You know,
it's incredible that these things seem so small, but they're so
yeah,
huge, and they're so easy to fix. Like,
absolutely. And it's like,
know,
saying going to a job interview knowing that you look fresh and clean
yeah,
is that confidence level is different to. I mean, I've been in my life going to an interview where it's poured with rain, I've had no umbrella, I've turned up looking like a drowned rat, and I know that my confidence level is on the floor
yeah,
because I'm literally dripping on these people. But that's, I'm still in a suit. I've
yeah.
still had the luxury of being able to make the choice to look how I look. I just wetter.
And
But
also that you were able to leave there, go home, warm up, get
exactly,
things
get myself
sorted,
dry,
put
change
something
my
else on.
clothes.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think that the very small interactions that we're getting at here, they do have this massive effect. There could be somebody out there who will invent the next cancer drug, who is currently
exactly.
homeless, who is currently having the worst year of their life,
Yeah.
and somebody shows them some kindness, it gives them the confidence to get back on their feet, and they achieve what nature intended them to
Yeah.
achieve. We don't know.
I feel really strongly about that. I feel that, I don't come from a privileged background, but I feel that I was privileged in having a mum that said I could do anything I wanted, which is probably not a good idea, but it turned out okay. And having that kind of backing and that support, and I always had clothes, even if they were made out of duvet covers. I always had I always had everything, and I was always very well looked after. And I feel like I've been very lucky to go out into the world, get an education, and then go and do things and actually have a lot of self-confidence. I was a very shy person when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I couldn't speak to people, couldn't go in a shop in case I had to talk to somebody on a till. And now I'm like overly confident and it's a problem. But I think this, I just feel like I feel so lucky that I'm able to have an idea or do something, put it into action. I'm not worried about what will happen. A lot of people talk about failure and stuff. I've never failed at anything. It might have gone wrong, but I've just learned and I've moved on. I don't think of anything as ever being a failure. And I feel I'm either deranged potentially or just really lucky that I feel like that. And I think, I just want to be able to pass on some of that feeling to other people, because you're so right. There are people out there who are absolutely brilliant, but literally just because of finances, they're not able to show that. And it's not just that they miss out, but the rest of society misses out on their brilliance. And we, anything we can do to change that, to make things more fair and equitable, make things accessible for people, is the benefit is for everybody. It's, so anybody who
Completely.
looks at it and thinks, oh, well, that person, they've not worked hard enough or they've not paid enough money for something. It's about sharing. It's about connecting and sharing and being a community, a society where we're all doing something that benefits the next person, because we all grow and benefit from that.
Absolutely. And one small act can lead to a complete change in somebody's day, life, year. We
Like
just don't
huge
know.
things. Even
Let's all get together and give it a go.
Well, when we were talking about people being able to drop off their products, there was an artist, Sinead Loftus, who she did some voluntary work for Toiletries Amnesty, but and because she'd seen the directory, she'd gone and dropped off some products in London at a women's shelter, and she'd got talking to them, and she'd ended up doing an art project with them. And I can't, it was called Moon Stories or Moon something. It's really bad that I can't remember what it was called. Definitely to do with the moon. But and she went back and she worked with them on these projects, and they were making these kind of like books that they would work in and then pass on to somebody else. So it's kind of like a collaborative project. And that was just because she'd gone through the door to drop off some toiletries
Mm.
and then found there was something else that she could do for them. And then she did a lot of work with us, like finding more locations that would need stuff and things. Obviously, we can't take everybody's lives up fully, so we released her into the wild after she'd done lots for us. But that this is the thing, that there's so much capacity for us to do small things, knock-on effect. If somebody works in an office and they feel strongly, they've heard what we're talking about, or they feel strongly about something, they could just ask everybody, hey, just drop some stuff on my desk. I'm going on Friday, and
Yeah,
it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's just knowing that we can do it. I think that's the thing. Like, there are so many things that are wrong. They seem so big, we can't fix them. As an individual person, I can't fix any of these things. But I team up with everybody else. Actually, we've all got power and we can all do something. And the knock-on effect, if everybody just did that little tiny thing would be so huge. And it doesn't, it could be toiletries, it could be anything, but it's just that, I think that level of positivity and sharing with other people.
Yeah. One small action can make a huge change.
Yeah.
You never know. And if we can't share with our fellow mankind, then why are
What's
we
wrong
even
with
here?
us?
Yeah, exactly. So we are launching our partnership, the Toiletries Amnesty and John Bell Croyden, in partnership with each other. So our mission together is to encourage more people to engage with this program and to visit toiletriesamnesty.org to see the directory, to see how they can get involved, where they can drop products off to, where they can post them to. They can also visit johnbellcroyden.co.uk, where there will be a Toiletries Amnesty landing page where they'll be able to find information about Karen Harvey, MBE, the lovely founder. Our commitment to Toiletries Amnesty as John Bell Croyden, and our mission together to reach out to more people across the world, to the beauty industry as a whole, to everybody that we interact with here at JB&C, and everybody that you interact with at Toiletries Amnesty, and get that message out there to the world that we're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to make small changes for individuals. And through doing that, we are going to change the world.
Yeah, I believe it. I really believe in it. And I think like that's the power of people coming together and actually, having like a shared perspective on something. It's huge. Like because there's that energy, it bounces off, doesn't it? Like,
It does.
like you're saying, I was feeling really like we're working so hard and the cost is high to do this. I have to mention that, that we don't get government support, we don't get funding. So making these things happen is actually quite difficult. And without other people's energy and involvement, it's a really miserable place to be. And actually, like, from winning the award through Future Icons, from working with you and the partnership this year for us with John Bell Croyden, these are big power givers. It's a sense of energy and excitement that other people care. It's really important. And that's like, sharing the message and spreading that kind of story, letting people know what we do. It's really, really important. It's free. It's free for someone to talk about what we